Bryan's Lunch Truck is here. And now here's your host, Bryan Moose.
Hello, this is Bryan's Lunch Truck Radio, CarbonatedValleyRadio.com, and what you hear are honeybees. And because today's guest is Melissa Cronshaw of Melissa's Bees, and she's going to inform us about bees, the history of bees, maybe the future of bees. And she brought with her a display that she usually shows the kids, and it's an enclosed box with how many bees are in there?
You know, there are probably about 1,000 bees in here.
Wow. Yeah, and it's pretty neat. And would you say they're angry right now or a little agitated?
They are definitely a little agitated. Not angry, but they're hum because of just how loud it is. They're definitely letting us know they're not happy.
What would make them happy?
Being back in their colony with the rest of their family.
Not being in that box.
Yeah, go be out of the box.
Yeah, they don't go to the bathroom when they're locked inside like this. So
really?
Yeah, they are very hygienic. So they are maybe doing a little potty dance.
Oh, wow. And now, do you transfer these out and switch around the bees so they're not...
I do. I actually purposefully picked this one up from a different apiary than the one I have in my backyard because those ones I've been messing with a little bit too much lately.
Right. And when you say apiary, what do you mean?
An apiary is a place where bees live. So it can be anywhere from just a backyard with one hive in it to the pollination fields that have thousands of hives.
I always thought apiary was where hipsters went and drank cider and got semi-drunk.
Yeah, me too.
It's the same thing.
And listen to folk music.
That's what I thought.
You can do that at one of the apiaries, but you can also do that in any apiary if you want to. I actually recommend it.
That'd be great.
I do.
I know. So you know that now they're a little agitated. Let's talk about, when you talk about a hive, how many individual members of our bees are in a hive on average?
So the hive itself is actually the structure that the bees live in. So that could be like a tree, a box. But if you're talking about the bees, you'd be talking about the colony.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's there's a lot of different little terms.
Right.
But a colony of bees can be anywhere from 10,000 up to 80,000.
Right.
So it can be quite large.
You've been involved with bees, I'm going to say your whole life, just talking to you. I'm going on your website, melissasbees.org. Nice and easily navigable website, a very informative website, so good job on that one. I enjoyed it. You've been involved, let's say, with bees your whole life. How has the public's attitude towards the honeybee changed in the last 5-10 years, maybe?
Ooh,
well, especially in light of all the headlines that we see that there's this terrible shortage and that they're disappearing.
Yeah,
right.
The slogan, Save the Bees, it's actually a little misleading because honeybees, like the ones I have with me, the ones I work with, it's actually kind of even like a sore topic. It's an internal struggle because honeybees are not native to the Americas. They were brought here with the Pilgrims. They were originally known as white man's fly. They are extremely established now, so they're not going anywhere. But they're an extremely resilient species that humans can manipulate, we can help manage, we can support. But the bees that are actually suffering are the thousands and thousands of native bees. So worldwide, there's over 20,000 species. Honeybees make up just 20 of that number.
Interesting.
In just the state of California here, we have over 2,000 species of native bees.
Right, and now are they as prolific on their production of pollination?
So that's kind of where it differs too, because honeybees, we like them because they not only pollinate, they also produce honey and wax, and we can use them for so many things. The native bees, they don't do any of those like extra activities. They do make small amounts of honey just for their own purposes, but where they do flourish is that pollination aspect because they are native, so they have established themselves here and they've grown up with these plants and the flora that we have around us. So there's one particular bee, a mason bee, that can actually pollinate 95 times more effectively than a honeybee because of just its body shape, its size. They're much furrier, so when they land on a flower, they'll actually vibrate and create like a plume of pollen that just gets stuck to their entire body.
Now, do they build hives or are they on the ground? Are they like...
Minor bees are in the ground. They make little holes. There are also mason bees, which can live in like tunnels or little tubes. You might see those like hanging on the side of walls. Carpenter bees like to burrow into like people's decks. People don't like them because they do chew into the wood, but they're actually really awesome and they don't do any damage other than their little tunnel, so just leave them be.
They're part termite.
They are. They are. But actually, yeah, termites, bees, and ants are three of the most social insects that are actually considered more advanced than humans.
I'm going to have to agree with that. What we've done to the planet.
If you think of how collaboratively they can work together.
I believed in God till I came to my first four-way intersection.
Yeah, no, that's...
I was like, wow, we can't even figure this out.
No.
Seriously.
Oh, then you get to the ones in Montecito where it's like an 8-way stop.
Oh my God, yes,
like,
that's it. Gosh, no, that's impossible. When I talked about attitude, what I was going for, I know probably if you went 20-something years ago, if somebody had a beehive, they would call it an exterminator. Mm-hmm. Has that changed?
Yes and no. I say no because I may or may not have just told somebody last week to exterminate a hive.
If you did, what was the reason, if you don't mind?
The reason, so there's usually two reasons why I would say that. One is because they are extremely aggressive. And genetically, a queen will mate with 20 different drones from other colonies. So you're getting genetics from all over the place. Sometimes a colony just becomes a little bit spicier, naturally.
Right.
So if they become a threat to the public around them and they can't be relocated, then unfortunately at that point you just have to exterminate them.
Oh, is that because they're partly through genetics have made it and with the line of DNA from the African, I hate to say the killer bee, but the African bees?
The Africanized. Yeah, it could be. I mean, at this point, almost all bees are so genetically crossbred that it's hard. You can send them to specific schools that can do a full genetic analysis of what percentage of what it is. But also looking at honeybees, one colony is almost like one creature. So just like in the different breeds of dogs, they can all be the same breed, but you're still going to have different personalities.
Right.
So honeybees are kind of the same way, where each colony, it might have the same genetics as the one next to it, but personality-wise, it's going to be its own creature.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that where the book we talked briefly about, real briefly, Democracy of Bees or Bee Democracy? Does that cover that all?
It talks a little bit about that. Because collectively bees are a brilliant democracy. Everything they do is for the benefit of the whole. So because of that, they can also be kind of looked at as one whole organism where just like our body is made up of thousands of cells, they're also like one organism made up of thousands of cells. Their cells are just a little bit bigger so you can see them.
Right.
But collectively, it's still one.
Wow. All right, our show's over.
Picture a little bee.
That's it.
Which actually then takes me to a whole different side where, because this is like a creature, you can actually develop relationships with them. So as a beekeeper, I do recommend going into an apiary with your cocktails. That's why I say, go out and have a cocktail. Have a drink with your bees. Talk with the bees because they can recognize facial patterns and actually get to know a person. If you are visiting them consistently and having a positive relationship with them, they will develop a positive relationship.
Wow, that's wild. Well, let's play a couple songs.
Okay.
Because we do have music.
I was picturing little bee polling places, which about the democracy.
Well, I was like a little cocktail bee area.
Yeah,
Oh, we can get into their voting system later.
And listen, they're right now, you know what? They're like, I need a beer. I can hear them. Let's take talk about alcohol, kind of drinks. One's rolling a joint. How old school. No edibles there.
Might calm them down a little.
Calm them down a bit. Oh, hey, is it Killer Queen by Queen coming up? And after that, who's playing? What do we have?
After that, it's Nico Case and Hold On.
Hold On. You'll like. If you haven't heard Hold On yet by Nico Case, you'll like it.
I'm excited.
Yeah, great. All right, Queen, Killer Queen. Here we go.
Carpinteria Valley Radio.
All right, we're back. Bryan's Lunch Truck Radio, CarpinterValleyRadio.com with Melissa of Melissa's Bees. Website is melissasbees.org. And by the way, it's a great website, like I mentioned earlier. I want to continue on what we were talking about earlier. Bees recognizing you, or you working with bees, much as somebody with their pets.
Yeah. So, bees are just like any other, they are wild creatures. So, any other wild creature, if you treat them with respect and you understand their behavior and the signs and signals that they're showing you, then there can be a very lovely symbiotic relationship going on.
Have you talked to, when you've done your teaching, have you taught that? So if somebody wants to have their own hives, they're like, spend time with it, be there with it.
Yeah. I recommend if you're a coffee or tea drinker in the morning, just go out and have coffee or tea with the bees. If you prefer a cocktail in the afternoon, have a cocktail and a beer with the bees. One or the other, but I do recommend every day going out and just looking at them, not opening them or anything, just looking at them and talking to them.
Right. Now, we can hear them, and you said they might be a little agitated, and I was wondering it's because of Dennis.
They are very smell-oriented.
Shut up over there.
Smell-oriented bachelor.
I don't know
bachelor dentist. The place is 4 square feet.
Yeah.
Could be that they just picked up a week of something.
You also mentioned it's spring.
It's spring, and what I noticed was I have a few colonies who are really losing a lot of their workforce right now. Every morning when I do go out to talk to them, there are just a lot of dead bees on the ground, which is always normal to have some, but there's been a lot of higher levels, which is making me think when I do look around with all the beautiful spring foliage, I also see a lot of flowers like dandelions and sourgrass, which people do consider to be weeds. And one of the most common things that people do with weeds are spray them.
Oh. Still.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
Roundup and Raid are 2 of like the worst products that you can buy, and unfortunately, you can buy them at any convenience store.
Yep.
And even just spraying them on the little dandelion patch in your grass, if one bee comes from your next door neighbor's colony or a wild tree that might be down the street and lands on that flower, it's going to get infected, and it can either take that then back to its hive, which is going to infect others, or that bee's just dead.
So that's kind of shocking. So one bee can carry the pesticide back and spread it like a virus to the whole colony.
Well, it also gets spread through the nectar,
right?
Because that's what the nectar and the pollen that they're collecting. If that has been sprayed and it's now, infected, that's then going to get spread and also used to turn into honey.
It's frustrating. That product should have been taken off the market ages ago. Monsanto just pays a gazillion dollars and leaves it on sale.
Yeah, and actually in other countries it is illegal.
Yeah.
It's just here in the U.S. that it is still so easy.
Correct. And it's still. Have you found any kind of in your placing your hives and maybe certain orchards, any kind of conflict with fellow neighboring orchards who spray when they should be spraying and might not be legal to spray, but they do anyway? Mm-hmm. Is that still going on?
That is, and what they are trying to make a shift in that now, where the state is now requiring that if you do have a beehive, even if it's just one in your backyard, that you register it. And one of the reasons for registering it is that if there are any orchards within a mile of your location that is going to spray, they are now legally required to call you and tell you when they're going to spray and what they're going to spray.
Good. And then what's your responsibility to that information, though?
Unfortunately, as the beekeeper, it's still your responsibility then to do something about it. So I always ask, one, if there are any flowers on the trees, because if they are blooming, then there's the likelihood that my bees are going to go visit those flowers. So what I can do is actually lock my bees inside, which of course is going to cause them stress. But what it is going to do then is let whatever pesticides or anything that has been sprayed, give that the chance for it to dissipate. And then, the next day I can let the bees out and at least they'll be a little bit safer. And
do you know, it sounds like you have to be pretty knowledgeable about your pesticides in order to help your bees. What would be the average dissipation rate till safe? I know that might be a hard question to answer, and I don't mean to do that, but I'm just curious how you figure that out.
Technically, I say no pesticides are safe ever.
Right.
It's really, you're fighting bugs, mm-hmm. and I'm working with bugs.
Right.
So how do you, hurt one and not the other? That's the fine line that I really don't think there's any way. Luckily, though, nature always has a way. There, for every one insect that we consider a pest, there are hundreds of other insects that could eat that insect or could do something to help, balance it.
I know they're doing that in the vineyards a lot more. A lot of vineyards are completely. What's the term for that when you use biodiversity to keep insects that eat? Bad insects would say under control. There's a term for it, and I don't know what it is.
There might be a specific term. I just say, at least with my beekeeping, I'm a treatment-free beekeeper.
Okay.
So that means that I just don't use any treatments. I try and use the more natural way of the bees.
Right. Do you give classes now?
I do. I actually just taught one a couple weeks ago up on Rincon Mountain at Sweet Mountain Top Farm.
Yeah. All right.
Which I'm planning to do a few more up there because Mary has a fabulous just medicinal herb garden going. And so I've had beehives up there for a few years now just pollinating away. And so I do that. And then I also will be teaching, or actually I'm going to be down at Patagonia's headquarters in Ventura in a couple weeks doing a talk down there.
Oh, fantastic.
On May 11th. And then, I'm going to be hosting just more classes throughout the year as needed.
And you also teach a lot of children and their reaction to bees.
It's adorable. Their reaction is very similar to ours, just based on what what our experience is. If they've been stung, they typically will be a little more fearful, or if their parents have instilled that fear. But they're also like little sponges where if you can teach them some fun, interesting facts and give them opportunities to get up close in a safe environment, it turns into more of a curiousness than fear.
Right.
Is there anything in common that you see with people that want to get started into this? Is it for profit? Is there a common reason that most people start up?
The most common reason is because people understand that the bees are at risk, and so they want to help save the bees.
Really?
Yeah.
That's heartening.
I'm actually going to say that's one of the worst reasons to get beehives in your backyard.
How come?
Really?
Why?
The reason I say that is because not everybody should be a beekeeper. There are a lot of risks that are involved. They are wild creatures, so if you don't have at least a basic understanding of their biology and just their general life cycle, it can be very complicated and very difficult. Honeybees are also, like I mentioned, not as at risk because they are so well, resilient and managed by humans. So it's actually the native bees that are the ones that are more at risk. So the more people that are bringing in honeybees into their backyard, they're actually creating more competition for the native bees that are already living there. So it can actually, having too many honeybees can overload the carrying capacity and become more detrimental to an environment.
Are there any programs to help propagate native bees?
There actually are a few now. There's one specifically like up in Washington that I've been trying to get. They sell mason bees and leafcutter bees. So again, those two species, they don't make honey, they don't make wax that we can take, but they are such prolific pollinators that they're so much more beneficial in that aspect. And because they're a native bee, they're not as big of a competitor with whoever else is in the area.
Now, how would you, if you're in the Central Valley, almond growers, almond farmers, and you want to use that, how do they have their own colonies through hives, or are they smaller groups? Do you see what I'm saying? How would a farmer bring in a better pollinator that's not the normal European-based honeybee? If you can answer that question.
That's a much larger question then, because it brings up a much larger topic because it's kind of the whole agriculture system in general. One of the problems that we have is that we do a lot of monocropping. So in those areas where it's the almonds, it is predominantly just almonds, and that's why they have to bring in these mass number of bees, because naturally there's no other bees there because there's not this plethora of foliage for that diverse that diverse ecosystem that you need.
Right. So there's no natural attraction for the native bees to be there. Yeah, so we have to import that, which helps. What I'm getting from this kind of propagates the problem that you mentioned. Now, I don't think anybody really thought about that what we think is doing good, and it is doing good.
Yes. It definitely is still beneficial.
Yeah, right. But also there's a downside to that, and I guess that's kind of happens to anything we get involved with, becomes too much in a way. Yeah. Too much of a good thing in a way. Humans have a way of doing that, whether it's too many people, too much of this, that, and now this. But still, the idea that somebody wants to get their own hive. When you said that everybody's not ready for it, what does that mean? I'm not quite either. I've never heard anybody say that before. It's kind of interesting.
Well, like I mentioned, that honeybees are kind of like a creature. So if you decided one day that you wanted to adopt a tiger, would you just go and buy a tiger?
I have 3.
Oh, damn! Okay, that's impressive.
2 are stuffed, little animals, and I sleep with them at night. But one's real.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then if you wanted to go and adopt 3 actual real tigers, it'd be, it's kind of taking it to an extreme, but also in a way like kind of the same concept where you're getting this living being that you are now responsible for, which you can't fully control because they fly in and out of a hive and they will cover a 2-mile radius, and you can't be, controlling every single one of them. And they can sting people. And, even just the location of where you put a hive, if they're having a bad day, they might just take it out on the closest person, and it could be an unfortunate walker, just a bypasser walking their dog.
A bee gang.
Yeah. Bee thugs. Yep, just coming around the corner like, hey, motherfucker.
What are you doing here? This is my hive.
Yeah.
Wow, bee gang.
Yes.
As long as they don't tag, I'm okay. But sting who you want. Don't paint a wall.
Well, then also I have thought about using them as protection.
You're right. Kind of have a bee hat.
Well, actually, I had.
Fuck you.
Just just release my swarm of bees on people.
Really.
You're onto something there, I think.
Get away.
I had a swarm of bees one time move right onto my front porch, just a couple feet away from my front door, because I had a box sitting there. And a swarm moved, and I left them there for a couple days because every time I looked out my window, I was like, well, no one's going to come to my front door.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Like, it is the best no loitering sign.
So when somebody that wants to have a beehive, what do you think is the most common mistake or misconception beside the wildness of it all? Do we have this cute picture, that cute little honeybee picture,
wearing your little white suit with the head mesh thing?
I mean, I think it's adorable. I think it's always great, even getting kids in suits.
Right.
I think really what's hard to understand is that bees go through a cycle, and it's over the course of a year. They go through phases. They expand their population. They decrease their population. And not having just kind of a basic understanding of what cycle it is that they're going through can be confusing then with how to respond to them. Because, during this time...
getting pissed off again.
They are. I don't know.
There they go.
Right now they're expanding, so they need more room. If you don't give them enough room, it increases their chances of swarming, which then they're letting off bees into your neighborhood.
Right.
And, if you don't know how to control the swarming or catch the swarms or, manage that, it's just, now you're creating just a bigger problem.
Right.
So having that understanding is really the best thing to start with. And I got a little off topic, I think.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I got distracted with the hum.
Well, I'm wondering because I know in L.A., San Francisco, and other metropolitan areas, certain restaurants and even hotels have hives on top of their buildings.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. But you're saying there's a responsibility to that, obviously.
There is.
That we might not even think about. I just think about, and I never really thought about that per se. I have a hive. It's kind of nice, and they kind of fly around.
They do.
Yes.
But you could also have somebody then, have a dinner party and something happens and someone gets stung and they can sue you because technically it's on your property and they're your bees.
You can have a dinner party get sued just for my conversation alone.
You could have someone just looking
after a couple of bottles of wine.
We live in a very happy town.
Yeah, well, I'm suing you.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, when I get back, I want to kind of talk about your history, how you grew up, where you grew up, and your involvement with bees. And like I said, it's from childhood, and, your dad, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And let's go into some music. And we got, I think, First Aid Kit, Wolf, coming up.
Yep.
Cool. And after that?
It would be Lissy and Record Collector, something I'm dying to hear.
Oh, you'll like Record Collector. Lissy is great. And she now lives in Ojai. Well, she did when this was released. I think she's from Oklahoma. Not sure. I forgot. But yeah, we like her. And I think you'll like the song. First Aid Kit is a really good. I just really like them too. And this song is a good song.
I listen to it on repeat all the time.
Yeah, awesome. First Aid Kit, Wolf, CopperDaleValleyRadio.com. This is Brian's Lunch Truck Radio. Hey, let's listen to some music.
All right.
You're good.
It's a C minor.
I'm going to turn my phone off right now. I'm getting good reviews. You're getting good reviews.
That's
good. So, on your webpage, when I went through it, you had, I believe, bee abandonment and bee abscondment.
Yeah.
And what is the difference?
So right now, during this time of year, if the colony is empty, it's usually because they died. In the summer and fall, when they all leave, it's usually because we call absconding. And that's where they're just under so much stress from something that they've just decided to abandon ship and go off in search of a new home.
Now, you say absconding. Is that because they kind of seem to leave early in the morning and take the queen with them?
Yep. It will be one of those phenomenons where a beekeeper will go out one day and there could be bees in the box, totally happy and healthy from what it seems, and then the next day you go out and there's not a single bee left.
Wow.
And
interesting.
It's quite literally because they just abandoned ship.
Right, and they're looking for a safer area, a new home.
Yeah, which unfortunately, depending on the time of year, in the late summer and fall, there are not great chances of them actually bouncing back and surviving because the resources, they should have already built up all those resources from the springtime.
Right, so now it's kind of running out of those resources, everything from food to water.
Yep.
And how far will they search for water? Again, if that's, I know that's not like a quantitative answer, like just,
Well, bees typically will work a 2-mile radius from around their hive. And that will be for water, for pollen, for nectar, and for tree sap, tree resin.
All right. I want to real fast talk about the bee life span. I think a lot of people don't realize how short it is.
For some.
And for some, correct. And could you explain what the various bee lifespans are?
Yeah, so in a colony in honeybee colonies there are 3 bees. There's the worker bees, which are all female, the queen bee, and the drones. The drones are the men. There are usually up to 60, 80,000 worker bees, 1 queen, and usually around 200 drones. And the worker bees, they only live 3 to 6 weeks. And they actually go through a full cycle where they start out inside the hive. As soon as they hatch, their first job is to turn back around and start cleaning out their own cell. And then they become cleaner bees, they help out, they become nurse bees, then they graduate a little bit more, they can become architects, where they're helping create wax.
So what you're saying is basically every parent can learn how to raise their kids like a bee, so the kids will be clean their room and eventually move out and die.
Yeah. Abscond.
Well, that's how I interpret it. Okay, continue on.
Yeah. I mean, once they go through all their phases, then eventually their last phase is they get to actually leave the hive and become foragers and scouts.
Right.
And at that point, then they just fly until their wings give out.
Wow. Now, how do they navigate back, let's say?
Bees have great ways of navigation. Mostly with the sun. Light is a big use for them. They have 5 eyes, so they actually see different things than we do. But it's based on light, objects, smells, vibration, the Earth's magnetic pole.
A little bit of everything we've lost.
Yeah, they're very well connected.
We have ways.
Yeah. So if they say, bees don't fly at night because the sun isn't out, which technically they are less likely to fly at night because they do have a harder time orienting themselves in space because there isn't that sun. But if you do go out with a flashlight, they will fly right at you because they do see that. But you can go out and look at bees at night using a red light because they can't see that. Right. So that is one way you can.
Would they fly perhaps more like a full moon?
They might. Well, actually, this was actually about an eclipse, but there was a study that they just did based on the last solar eclipse, that as soon as the sun was completely eclipsed, bees went completely silent. And like every hive, they just completely stopped for just like a second, and then just went back like nothing happened.
Wow. Interesting.
So right. I'm sure the full moon would have some kind of an effect.
Right. And I'm going to go back to our responsibility as beehive owners.
Yeah.
And because that seems pretty important. And again, we mentioned off air when music was playing about how people buy horses. Or purchase a horse because that's cute, and they realize it's a $40 billion a year enterprise,
right?
Yep.
And a horse is an animal, and it's still wild in a lot of ways. So the mistake you're seeing with people again would be they're getting into situations they just cannot handle.
Yes.
Right, and then they call you.
They call me, and some situations are like, oh yeah, this is quick and easy. Whatever. Some, it's a much more intricate problem. And unfortunately, some people are, happy to just pay whatever. Yes, let's work this out. Others, some things do come with a hefty price. So
right.
People are not as willing, which at that point, then it's, you're kind of on your own.
Right. Now, you do beehive removal.
Some.
And you say some, there's a quantifying tone to that, and what is a qualifier on that?
Or disqualifier.
Yeah, disqualifier. Yes.
Just plain and simple, the amount of work that it takes. Because I like to base more of my time and effort around education and actually working with people who are in need. That's my bigger thing. Bees once they move into a structure or something, that's a different side of beekeeping, which I am familiar with and I do take part in. But part of beekeeping is also, maintaining your hives to prevent those bees from then swarming out and moving into somebody else, which is really just as easy as hanging a swarm trap. If you are a beekeeper and you have bees in your backyard, hang just a converted box somewhere else and put some frames in it, and then that way if your bees do swarm, they're going to go move into that instead.
I've never even heard of that. So there is a thing called a swarm box, and it's kind of a second home. It could be.
Yeah,
when they run away from home.
It's not when they're running away. It's actually when they're doing so well that they're propagating. They're sending out a little baby.
Yeah, it gives them a place to go that's not your face.
Yeah. Which, it is like they're sending out a little baby, although at the same time it's actually not a new queen that's leaving. It's the old queen. And the new queen that's hatching, she lets out this piping sound. It's like beep, beep. It kind of sounds like Morse code. But what she's saying is basically, I'm about to hatch. If there's another queen still here, I'm going to murder you. So then, before she hatches, the old queen, she will take off with a portion of her workers, and she will go and find a new home. They'll already have scouted out a new home. So if you had a box hanging, there's a chance that they're just going to go move right in there.
Wow.
And then that's a way that you can then, propagate your own colony, and then now you have another hive. Or you can, give that to someone else, and they can please.
So what would be the lifespan for a drone bee?
Drones, it depends. Typically, it's 3 to 6 months.
Oh, really?
And I say it depends because there's usually 2 things that kill them. One is they die after they mate. So as soon as they've mated, they will fall to the ground and die. The queen has quite literally taken their entire reproductive system. She'll do it to 20 different drones, so then she just has a lifetime supply of sperm. And then the other way is if they...
I don't know one woman that wants a lifetime supply of sperm either. There's not one human out there that wants a lifetime supply of sperm.
Humans, no. But technically, because she is the one and only bee that is capable of mating and laying eggs, that's quite literally her sole purpose.
Right.
So she doesn't have another choice.
Right.
But... she also can live up to 5 to 7 years.
Almost a decade.
So she needs all that sperm. She'll collect all of that within, her 3rd week of life. By her 3rd week, she is fully stocked and loaded, and now she's just going to live out her days laying eggs.
Wow.
Until her colony decides that they're doing so well, because again, it's a democracy. No single bee is in charge. Once they've decided collectively that they're so healthy and happy and they're ready to send off a swarm, they'll put her on a diet, they'll send out scouts looking for a new home, they'll create a new queen, and right before that queen hatches, she tells her, get the fuck out.
Wow.
She leaves, and now you got 2.
So basically, they body shame the female.
Well, no, they are not.
Give her a lifetime of sperm, and then body shame her.
No, they're actually putting her on a diet because
put her on a diet.
She hasn't flown in over a year. The only other time she left the hive was when she mated.
Hello, honey. Hi, you're home. You should be put on a diet.
But it's because it's for your own safety. Because if you don't, your own daughter is going to hatch and murder you. Yeah. So we should probably put you on a diet so you're ready to pack your things and go.
Oh, wow, Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Hey, now speaking of which, it's not too far off topic. I hope. Were murder hornets ever a real thing?
So first of all, they're called the giant Asian hornet. Murder hornet was more
That was all during the pandemic. Oh, what else could go wrong?
Okay.
Exactly.
I never saw a single photo of a murder hornet.
That was more of one of those bit of media
urban myth,
making a little bit of a hysteria.
Okay, good. I never saw a single photo of one.
So they're called murder hornets because they are 6 times the size of bees. They're huge.
Really?
The guy wouldn't want to mess with one.
Right.
But the Asian honeybees, they have evolved with these giant Asian hornets. So genetically, they actually know how to combat them.
Wow.
And what they do is the bees will basically ball it. They'll just all jump on it and start vibrating until they heat up to about 130 degrees or something like that.
Wow.
And they quite literally cook it.
Wow.
So
they can't just sting the crap out of it? I mean,
the thing is the bees' stingers
Can't they body shame it like they just did the queen 20 minutes ago?
I mean, I don't think that's as effective because the murder hornet is 3, like I said, really. 6 times big, so it could just be fuck you, I'm gonna squish you.
Really, tell me to move.
Actually, what they do is they go and they just rip their heads off.
Right. Wow. So do that again. Explain that again. I find that fascinating.
So our honeybees will do this as a defense for a few reasons, but what they do is they just basically ball it, a whole bunch, 50 bees just gather around it and they just vibrate themselves and it generates heat. And so that center just becomes like a little stove or a little oven and they quite literally cook things to death. They'll do the same thing with a queen bee. If they want to murder their queen because she's not performing up to the standards of the colony, they'll ball her and cook her to death.
Wow.
There goes my children's storybook I was going to write about bees. Just went out the window.
It just became a different kind of book is all, really.
Yeah.
Everything's for the benefit of a whole. So if their queen is not performing up to their standards, they'll murder her and create a new one with one of her own eggs.
Now, have the queens ever sense this and is left on their own with no drones or anything?
No.
Okay, they always take something with them.
Because they're not capable of living on their own.
Okay.
They need the support of the workers. So if
Right.
they don't have that, they're dead.
So they're like the royal family of England.
They are.
Okay.
The drones are
The
kind of
parallels
similar
are
too.
scary here. Yeah.
The drones are similar too. Where like their tongue, their proboscis, is actually too short that they can't even feed themselves. So
And they're men. Those are male.
They're the male.
Yeah,
So if they don't, this is what I was getting at. If they don't die mating in the fall, when resources start to become a little more scarce, the worker bees know how many resources they need to keep themselves alive. So if they don't have enough, the first ones to get kicked out,
Wow.
the men.
Wow.
They'll kick them out, and there'll just be like mass die-offs.
Man.
Interesting.
So if they,
That's so much I didn't know about this.
And I was wondering, I was last time meditating about maybe coming back as a bee.
if you are, you
forget
want to
it.
come back as a female bee.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know. I'm going to get body shamed and kicked out.
it's cutthroat.
I have to have a sperm.
Yeah.
My uncle
Well,
like
that's only
that.
if you're queen. That's
Oh,
the
that's
queen
only-
bee. The
oh,
worker
the
bees.
worker bee, okay.
You know, they just work for 3 to 6 weeks until they die.
And they do. And that's about their lifespan.
That is their lifespan.
Do you have interest in other bugs?
You know, my favorite are bumblebees. I think bumblebees are more fascinating than honeybees. They are also social, just not as social. So a whole colony of bumblebees is only about 200. But they've done there was a study done where there's only like 5 creatures that could pass this test. It's called the string test, where there's a piece of plexiglass and underneath it is a treat. So the creature can't get the treat. But there's a string connected to the treat, so they just have to pull the string to get the treat. And there's only a select few that can do it without having any sort of prompting or any sort of training. And it's a few species of primates and bumblebees.
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's
That is
something about the
interesting, yeah.
way that they can cognitively solve problems by just observing.
Oh,
It
so you
was-
got them mad. They're
Yeah,
jealous.
they're
Now
jealous.
they're
They
jealous.
are. They're like, we can do that too.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I don't
really.
think
Give us
you
some
can.
string. Yeah, what's your problem?
I mean,
Yeah.
I know
Really.
you're really smart also, but bumblebees...
Really, I could drive.
Well, bees do feel emotions.
yeah, and that's.
Yeah,
I think that would correlate with sitting with them and spending time with them because they could sense you and who you are.
Definitely.
And maybe relate to you.
There was one time in particular, actually, where I was sitting in my apiary, just hanging out, having a cocktail with my bees, and they're just doing their thing. And then my ex-boyfriend came out, and a bee just immediately went over and stung him.
Yeah,
Yes.
And I was like, wow,
cool. Love bees.
you're not welcome out here.
Really?
And then, probably a sign from the bees.
Ex-boyfriend, I noticed.
That's not unlike, you walk in and the dog doesn't like you. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Right.
know,
Yeah.
or something. Or
I don't
something
have
they
that
don't
problem.
like.
Well, I'm goofy, so
You're
people
doing
don't
the
like.
same different vibe.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't like me, I'm like, okay,
Much different vibe.
I'm out of here. Hey, your boyfriend
Yeah.
doesn't like me.
Yeah, no, I know. Instead, I took a lesson from the bees and decided that women are better, so...
Awesome. Good for you. And now you're happy.
Living in a female-dominant colony is way better. No problems over here.
I wouldn't mind that either. The way we've run things. I mean, like, yeah, please,
I mean,
please take over.
not gonna lie, there
Show us the way.
a lot less problems, maybe.
Maybe. I would have to like to see. I know it's off topic, like a parallel world.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much different it would be, but I'd like to at least see that. Female-dominated, government-wise world, and what we have now. And I just want to give. Would there be a difference?
Yes.
How much of a difference would
A
there
lot.
be?
That's the
There would
premise
be a difference.
of,
Okay.
the premise
There would
of
be a
everything
huge-
everywhere all at once.
Excuse me?
That's the premise of everything everywhere all at once.
Oh,
There could be another world where everything is where it's the same but way different.
Same, but different.
right. And they're the same. Same realities, different dimension.
Yeah, but everybody has black hair or something.
Right.
You know.
Okay. I haven't seen the movie yet.
It's weird.
Well,
I mean,
don't
it won a
mind
lot of awards.
I know.
No, and it's really brilliant, but it's hard to understand.
So you should do it on acid.
It would make no more or less sense to you than if you weren't. Yeah.
well, if you're on acid, are the graphics great?
Actually, it'd be more entertaining.
How's the
honestly.
music?
There you go.
Good. The editing, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant. Even if you don't get it, it's stunning to look at.
Okay, I have issues with modern. Oh my God, we're way off topic here.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
That's okay. But I have real issues with the modern editing processes. It's so jumpy, so hectic.
Oh,
I don't think
this will
there's a
drive
scene-
you nuts.
I don't think there's a scene in a new movie, except for maybe Banshees of Inisherin and The Quiet Girl, or Women Talking, that's more than 12 seconds before it goes somewhere else. Like Elvis.
Yeah.
Love the movie. I like the movie Elvis.
Yeah.
But bam, boom, bam was the editing.
Editing like crazy and everything all at once is, that'll drive you nuts.
Now, if you want to see a movie that's slow, that's really, really good, well written, and long scenes, I really like was The Irishman. About the mob, the hitman who supposedly killed Hoffa by Martin Scorsese.
Okay.
Long scenes, just good camera work, calm.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about this.
Okay, well.
Okay, back to bees. Your father,
Yes.
was he a beekeeper, or did he have bees on a ranch, or how did he get interested in bees?
My father, the bee man. So he went to Santa Barbara High School, and when he was a senior in high school, he had a teacher, Mr. Torres, and Mr. Torres had an observation hive in the back of his classroom. So it was a full functioning beehive with plexiglass, with a tube going out the window. So it's full beehive. And my dad said that he sat and watched the bees every day and didn't listen to a thing the teacher said.
Really?
And so he caught bee fever.
Right.
And bee fever is extremely contagious and it's really hard to get rid of.
And I understand bee fever.
Yeah.
Because my wife got bee fever. They kind of overtake. They're fascinating.
It's extremely overwhelming.
It is. It's
So-
you get books, magazines, you got all this stuff. You start, getting on blogs.
Yeah.
You
And-
go out to the hives every day.
Ooh, and it's hard because one question gets answered and then it leads to 10 more questions.
Right.
'Cause it's just a rabbit hole.
Right.
But he asked his parents, my grandparents, if he could get a beehive, and they agreed. So he ordered a beehive from a Sears catalog.
Oh.
It got shipped in the mail from Mississippi, and he put it up on the roof of his house, and they actually only lasted a few months and then died. But he was hooked, and ever since then, just kept keeping bees.
And what did he do for a living to keep his bee hobby going?
He was actually a high school teacher.
Okay.
So yeah, he was a teacher, and then he just did bees as an enjoyment.
And you tagged along? And
I tagged along. Pretty much any school science experiment I had to do, I would just involve bees, mostly because it was easy. It was like, hey, Dad, I need to do a science experiment. Can we go play with your bees? And because he would get just as excited about it, it was like I felt like I didn't have to do as much work. So I'm not going to lie, it was more of like my way of getting out
but still
of the
cool,
work.
though. Yeah, but still.
Now looking back, though, I'm like, well, I probably should have paid attention a little bit more. But
You're doing what you love.
But now I am doing it, and now he's fully retired. He's actually now more into birding.
Oh.
That's his thing. So he does birding and backpacking.
Right.
And then I've taken over the bees.
Wow, we're completely opposite.
Yeah.
I don't backpack, I don't bird. I drink gin and tonics.
Yeah, you know that it is very different. It's very different. You've got
I sit inside.
you've got beers and bars. You've got
beers
birds and backpacks.
Yeah, I got beers and bars. I do. It's like, I'm saving the environment by walking to the brew lab.
And then having important conversations while other people are actually out walking the wilderness.
Yes,
There you go.
That's right.
We need both ends of the spectrum.
Thank you very, very much.
It's very important.
I appreciate that. Oh, hey, music time.
Yeah.
What do we got?
Yep.
Up.
Actually,
What's
it's
going
1
on?
o'clock.
What?
Yeah, straight up.
snap.
This has been this
Oh,
has
my
moved
God.
right along.
Can we close out with?
A couple of tunes if you want.
Yeah.
We have Taylor Swift, Champagne Problems, and let's see, Rainbow Kitten Surprise, First Class.
Yeah, for your last Tuesday. Let's go with close out with Melissa's choices. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
This has been Brian's Lunch Truck Radio, CarboneerValleyRadio.com. Melissa Cronshaw, and if you want to remove a hive, they can go to your website, Melissa's Bees. All one word, lowercase.org. And real fast, could you give a name of a company that you would recommend for hive removal?
For hive removal, there's two people here in town that I usually recommend, and it's JP Bee Rescue and then Super Bee Rescue.
Okay. And you've had good relationships with them?
Yep, I've worked with both of them. They both, Super Bee was actually a gentleman that was trained by my dad as well. So.
Oh, wow. So there's a lineage there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And also her website will have connections to other beekeepers.
Yep, I work with a lot of beekeepers, just a lot of partnerships, and then I also go to schools and do presentations and like to teach kids.
All right. And so...
And that's melissasbees.org.
melissasbees.org. And can we get one last listen?
Yeah, and then I also am on Instagram as well. It's Melissa's Bees with 3 E's.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Bees. All right. There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well,
Such a buzz.
really. Well, I hope you had fun, Melissa.
I had so much
And
fun.
thank you.
I love talking about bees.
I learned
Yeah.
a lot today.
I did
really,
too.
about bees.
Yeah.
So glad. I did my
And
job
community.
Yeah, I really did. I'm not getting a beehive.
Thank you.
No, I won't. No, I'll get a beer.
Do that instead.
I will.
You know, get a beer and then go hang out with someone else's beehive. That's the way to do.
Oh,
Bee
that's
buddies.
nice. You know what I'll do? I'll find a fence I can crawl over with a beer and sitting with their beehive, and they'll wonder what I'm doing.
I mean, maybe ask permission first.
You
or
know,
not.
you ruin all fun.
I mean,
I had it all planned out.
Better to ask forgiveness than permission.
shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know if I want to end on that.
Well, you know, Hive code is deny everything.
Yeah, Hive code. Oh, great.
Now remember, if you missed the show or your friends missed the show, it's repeated tomorrow at 5 p.m. and Tuesday at 5 p.m.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melissa. That was really, really good.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate it. I did learn a lot. It was fantastic having you here. Brian's Lunch Truck Radio, and we have Taylor Swift, Champagne Problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brian's Lunch Truck pulls in every Thursday at noon Pacific at CarpinteriaValleyRadio.com.